I would want to die before my kids. I don't want to see none of my kids. I don't want any parent to have to ever go through this. None whatsoever.
This is the 24-year-old Alana Golan, a young mother from California whose life was cut short after a man followed her to work and killed her instantly. On the morning of September 21st, 2023, Alana was working at the Toyota Berkeley Service Center in Albany, California, when a man walked into the dealership during business hours. There was no warning, no argument. Just moments later, gunfire erupted inside the service department, shattering an otherwise ordinary workday. By the time police arrived, Alana had been shot at close range while seated at her desk. The man responsible would not leave the building alive. What should have been a normal shift ended in seconds, with a workplace turned into a crime scene and a 7-year-old child losing both parents in a single morning. And the most disturbing part is this: the violence didn't begin at the dealership. It followed a trail that had been forming quietly, long before that front door ever opened. But before we get there, we have to go back to who Alana Golan really was, before the job, before the separation, and before the moment her past caught up with her at work. This is the life and death of Alana Golan. Alana Golan was born in 1998 or 1999, though her exact birthday was never publicly disclosed. What is known is that she entered the world into a close-knit family that valued resilience, responsibility, and showing up for the people you love. From a young age, Alana was described by those closest to her as gentle, dependable, and emotionally intuitive, someone who carried herself with quiet strength rather than loud ambition. But even in those early years, there were signs that Alana would grow up fast. She understood responsibility early. Family members recall that she was the kind of young woman who thought carefully before acting, who weighed consequences, and who always considered how her choices might affect others. Say you want someone. She wasn't reckless, impulsive, or drawn to chaos. If anything, she actively avoided it. And that instinct to protect her peace would later shape some of the most important decisions of her life. Alana's school years were marked less by spotlight moments and more by consistency. She attended local schools in California, where she was known as a student who showed up, did her work, and stayed out of trouble. And while many people her age were still figuring out who they wanted to be, Alana already understood what she wanted her life to look like: steady work, a safe home, and a future that didn't feel uncertain. And as adulthood approached, Alana focused less on dreams and more on doing what needed to be done. By her early 20s, Alana had secured a position at the Toyota Berkeley Service Center in Albany, California, where she worked in the service department. She remained there for approximately 3 years, building a reputation as a reliable and hardworking employee. But behind that steady routine, another part of Alana's life had been quietly unfolding. You see, when Alana was around 16 to 17 years old, she met a young man named Lamar Walker. He was around the same age as her, and at that stage in life, everything moved quickly. Their connection formed during a time when both of them were still figuring out who they were and what they wanted out of the future. What began as a teenage relationship soon became serious, pulling them into each other's lives more deeply than either may have expected. And at first, there was nothing that suggested how complicated that connection would eventually become. Like many young couples, they shared plans, expectations, and the kind of emotional closeness that feels intense at that age. The relationship moved forward without much hesitation, and before long, their lives became permanently linked in a way neither of them could undo. That was when they found out they were going to have a child. The birth of their son, King, marked a turning point for Alana. Motherhood changed her priorities almost immediately. Family members later said that once King entered her life, everything else became secondary. She thought differently, she planned differently. Her focus shifted toward creating stability, routine, and a safe environment for her child. But while Alana was growing into that role, the relationship itself began to change. At some point after King was born, Alana and Lamar were no longer romantically together. They were not married, and the relationship did not continue in the way it once had. According to Alana's mother, this separation was intentional. Alana had begun to distance herself, concerned about Lamar's behavior and how it could affect her son. Those close to her described Lamar as reckless, and for Alana, that was not something she was willing to overlook. Still, she didn't cut him off completely. Instead, Alana chose to co-parent. She believed that maintaining a working relationship centered on their child was the responsible choice. Communication was kept focused on King. Boundaries were put in place to keep her life structured and predictable. From the outside, it appeared calm, two young parents trying to navigate separation without unnecessary conflict. But that balance depended on something fragile. It depended on those boundaries being respected. According to Alana's mother, Lamar struggled with that distance. While details about their private disagreements were never made public, what mattered most was how Alana responded. Rather than escalating tension, she pulled back further. She limited contact. She focused on her job, her routine, and her role as a mother. For Alana, stability wasn't optional. It was necessary. Eventually, Lamar left California and moved to Atlanta, creating physical distance that mirrored the emotional space Alana had already established. For a time, life settled into a rhythm. Alana worked, she raised her son, she relied on structure and routine to keep things steady. But even then, the story wasn't finished, because sometimes distance doesn't resolve what's unresolved, it only delays it. And when Lamar eventually returned to California, Alana was once again faced with navigating a relationship she believed she had already placed behind clear boundaries, trusting that the life she had carefully built would hold. For the most part, Alana handled that return the same way she handled everything else in her life, with caution and restraint. There were no public confrontations, no dramatic scenes, and no indication that she intended to revisit what had already ended. Her focus remained where it had always been since becoming a mother, on her son, her job, and maintaining a sense of normalcy. And outwardly, it appeared that she was succeeding. Alana continued working at the dealership, keeping to her routine and staying consistent with the structure she had built for herself and her child. Those close to her said she didn't speak openly about Lamar's return, which wasn't unusual for her. She tended to internalize concerns rather than share them, believing that staying composed was part of staying in control. But that calm didn't mean everything was settled. Those close to Alana would later reflect on how much responsibility she carried on her own. She was young, working full-time and raising a child while navigating a complicated co-parenting relationship. Yet she rarely complained. She didn't dramatize her struggles or ask for attention. She simply adjusted, believing that endurance was part of being a good mother. And that belief shaped how she approached the weeks leading up to September 2023. Nothing in her behavior suggested that she felt in immediate danger. She woke up, got ready for work, and went to the dealership. She handled service department responsibilities, spoke with coworkers, and moved through her shifts like she had done countless times before. There was no public indication that anything was about to go wrong. No warnings issued that morning, no disruptions to the routine she had built. At least, not yet. Because on the morning of September 21st, 2023, something unusual happened. Lamar unexpectedly walked into the Toyota Berkeley dealership where Alana worked. He approached her calmly. He handed her a cup of coffee. They spoke briefly. Whatever conversation they had that morning remains unclear, but there were no indications of public altercation, no scene that would have alerted coworkers or customers to anything unusual. After that short exchange, Lamar left the building. By late morning, the Toyota Berkeley Service Center was operating like any other weekday. Customers sat in the lobby, employees moved between desks and service bays. Alana was at her workstation, handling her responsibilities as she had countless times before. But no one could have prepared anyone for what was about to happen next. Just before 11:15 a.m., Lamar Walker could be seen in the surveillance footage returning to the dealership. This time, he did not come to talk. Within moments of entering the building, he approached Alana at her desk and fired multiple shots at close range, striking her while she was seated. The sound of gunfire echoed through the service center, sending customers and employees scrambling for safety. At approximately 11:15 a.m., emergency calls began flooding 911 dispatchers, reporting an active shooting inside the dealership.
Berkeley 911 505, where is your emergency? Hello?
Active shooter at Toyota Berkeley.
Where in Berkeley?
1025 East Shore Highway.
1025 East Shore. Someone is shooting people?
Yes, he's upstairs.
Okay. Okay, he fired some shots?
Get the building, get the building.
Sir, can you give me a description of this person?
1036 1071, possible active shooter. It's going to be in Albany, but we're getting the call. 1025 East Shore, 1025 East Shore. We do have a GSW victim. We're calling Albany now. If we can get units to 1025 East Shore Highway, it's going to be in Albany.
Before help could even come, Lamar would do something unexpected. He tried to end his own life, whether in desperation or guilt for what he just did, it remains unclear. But his attempt was unsuccessful as officers arrived within minutes.
I think I got everybody out. Over to this right here.
So what's set up a rally point for all the
Get that way, go that way.
victims or witnesses or employees south of this location?
Get out of line of sight of the building.
South on
Stay on this side. Come on this side.
When officers entered the building, they encountered Lamar Walker still armed. An officer-involved shooting followed, and Lamar was shot and killed at the scene.
Hey, push up. Cross court, guys. Push.
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Shots fired. Hey!
Alana was pronounced dead shortly thereafter.
Police say this all began when that suspect walked into the Toyota dealership there in Albany and shot and killed an employee.
KTVU's Crystal Bailey joining us now live from the scene with more on how all of this unfolded. Crystal?
Yes, well, we don't know yet who those people are by name, but right now we're learning that the woman who was killed was an employee and the suspect shot and killed by police. As you can see, the scene is still very much active with multiple agencies involved in this investigation. The original call came in as an active shooter in the building. Earlier today, an employee of Toyota told us it happened on the second floor just after 11 in the morning. Someone yelled gun and everyone evacuated the building. That's what the witness told us. They also saw a man with a gun shoot a female employee. Berkeley police tell us although the dealership is in Albany, they were called in to assist Albany PD, so Berkeley officers responded. Officers went inside, found a woman shot, and they say they were met with gunfire by the suspect. At least 5 officers returned fire. Now we know that suspect was shot and killed, and the victim is also dead.
4 gunshots, one right after another. A lot of people outside in front of the building crying, in shock, scared, sad.
And we don't know yet what the relationship is between the suspect and the employee who was killed. A police shooting investigation is underway by Alameda County Sheriff's Office, and the neighboring businesses also sent their employees home for safety as the investigation continues. Police are saying that these streets will be closed for several more hours. Reporting live in Albany, Crystal Bailey, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
When officers arrived at the Toyota Berkeley Service Center just after 11:15 a.m., they were responding to reports of an active shooter. Customers and employees were already running for cover, evacuating the building as patrol units converged on the scene. Body camera footage and surveillance video later showed the chaos unfolding in real time. Officers moved quickly to clear the area, directing people away from the building and out of the line of sight. Inside the dealership, the situation was still unfolding. Police advanced through the service center and made their way to the second floor. It was there that they encountered Lamar Walker. At the time of the encounter, Walker was still armed. Officers ordered him to show his hands, but instead of surrendering, Walker pointed a firearm in the officer's direction. Body camera footage, later released and reviewed in slow motion, captured that moment. Because of the danger Lamar posed to the police, a shooting occurred within seconds.
Shots fired. Hey!
5 Berkeley police officers fired their weapons, striking Walker. The shots fired were fatal, and by the time it all ended, Lamar was already dead at the scene. The firearm he had pointed at officers was recovered nearby. As officers secured the building and completed their sweep, emergency responders turned their attention back to the service department floor, back to Alana. But no matter what they do, it was all too late. Alana was also pronounced dead at the dealership. By late morning, 2 people were dead in 2 connected shootings. One, a targeted act of domestic violence carried out inside a workplace, the other an officer-involved shooting during an active shooter response. The dealership was locked down, the area sealed, and multiple agencies began a joint investigation, including Berkeley Police, Albany Police, the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, and later the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. What had begun as a normal workday ended with a young mother gone, a father dead, and a 7-year-old child left without either parent. And the investigation was only just beginning. Authorities acknowledged that the motive behind Lamar's actions remained unclear. There were no public records of threats, no restraining orders, no prior calls to police involving Alana and Lamar. From an investigative standpoint, the absence of documented warning signs made the case harder to contextualize, not easier. And that uncertainty weighed heavily on Alana's family. For Uwanda Gallen, the lack of concrete answers became its own kind of grief. She spoke openly about the frustration of losing her daughter without fully understanding the chain of events that led to that moment. She wasn't just mourning Alana, she was trying to make sense of a loss that felt sudden, senseless, and permanent.
7-year-old child doesn't have a mother or a father. And that's saddening for me, for real.
The mother of a woman who was shot to death at an East Bay car dealership is searching for answers tonight as her family tries to come to terms with the loss of a daughter and mother who leaves behind a young son. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Savage.
And I'm Heather Holmes. The family of Alana Gallen says that they are frustrated and asking for answers from police as they try to make sense of her killing that happened last week.
KTVU's Bailey O'Carroll joining us now live. And Bailey, you spoke with the family today. What did they tell you?
That's right, Heather and Alex. The family told me they are in shock and sad that 24-year-old Alana Gallen was killed in what they say was a senseless shooting. They told me that they're also frustrated by the lack of answers police have given them.
I would want to die before my kids. I don't want to see none of my kids. I don't want any parent to have to ever go through this. None whatsoever.
Uwanda Gallen is the mother of 24-year-old Alana Gallen, who was shot and killed by the father of her 7-year-old son, King. According to police, the gunman entered the Toyota dealership on Thursday before noon and shot Gallen. When police arrived, they shot and killed the suspect. But Gallen says right now there's more questions than answers.
Everything was, I don't know. We don't have all the information.
Gallen said her daughter loved life, but said her priority was her son.
Her 7-year-old child doesn't have a mother or a father. And that's saddening for me. I told him that his mom and his father was gone. He just laid his head back and said, no, they not. And after that, he's been crying. We all broke out crying. He's been seeing him cry, everyone cry.
Gallen says her daughter was not in a relationship with her alleged killer at the time of the shooting, but instead that the two were co-parenting King together. Gallen says now both parents are gone, all because of a senseless act.
It's going to be hard for me, hard for my family, of course, because she was very much loved by everyone. everyone loved my daughter. And that her son, he's going to need therapy. I'm going to need therapy.
But while investigators focused on timelines and procedures, Ioana was facing something far more immediate. She was now responsible for helping her grandson survive a trauma no child should experience. King had lost both his parents in a matter of minutes. There was no gradual transition, no opportunity to prepare. One moment his life was structured around school days, routines, and his mother's steady presence. The next, everything he knew was gone. And that reality settled in quietly. Family members described how King struggled to process what had happened. He asked questions that had no satisfying answers. He cried without warning. Sometimes he went quiet. Sometimes he refused to believe his parents were truly gone. Each reaction was different, but all of them pointed to the same truth. The loss was too big for a child his age to carry alone. That understanding is what led Ioana to seek help. The GoFundMe campaign she started was not about attention. It was about resources, therapy, stability, a future that could offer some sense of grounding after everything had been stripped away. The community response was overwhelming, but even that support came with a quiet reminder: no amount of money could replace what he had lost. And as the days turned into weeks, the reality of Alana's absence became more visible. At the Toyota Berkeley Service Center, coworkers returned to a workplace forever changed. Desks were rearranged, routines resumed, but the space where Alana once sat carried a silence that couldn't be ignored. Employees who had worked alongside her for years now had to reconcile the memory of an ordinary workday with the violence that had shattered it. For many of them, the trauma lingered long after the crime scene tape was removed. And beyond the dealership, Alana's story sparked difficult conversations about workplace safety, domestic violence, and how easily private struggles can spill into public spaces. It forced people to confront an uncomfortable truth, that sometimes, even when someone does everything right, harm still finds them. Alana had set boundaries. She'd created distance. She'd focused on her child and her job. She had avoided chaos rather than inviting it. And yet, none of those precautions guaranteed her safety. That is what makes this case so unsettling. Because Alana did not ignore warning signs. She responded to them the way many people are told to, by stepping back, by limiting contact, by prioritizing peace. Her life was not defined by turmoil or conflict. It was defined by intention. And still, her story ended in violence. As the investigation concluded and official statements were released, the facts became fixed in the public record. Dates, times, footage, findings. But what could never be captured in a report was the weight of what was lost. Today, Alana Gallon is remembered not for the way her life ended, but for the way she lived before it did. For her consistency, her restraint, her commitment to providing stability in an unpredictable world. For choosing responsibility, even when it required sacrifice. Her story serves as a reminder that violence does not always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in familiar places, on ordinary days. And when it does, the consequences ripple outward, touching far more lives than the ones named in police reports. For King, the future will be shaped by that ripple for years to come. And for those left behind, Alana's absence remains a constant, a reminder of how fragile safety can be and how deeply one life can matter to so many others. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.